Hello, today we have Mr. Lee from KPMG. We would like to talk about the mining resource sector and the finance and the codes with the National Instrument 43101 code and its equivalent in Turkey, which is the ÜMREK code. My name is Barış Yıldırım. I am a mining engineer and a geologist. I worked in Canada and Chile, and I have done my PhD in Queensland University. And today I am here with my academic role to talk about with this gentleman talk about the mining sector and his experience, his advices and opinions to Turkey on mining sector. So, Mr. Lee, we would like to know about your advices and your experience, how this formed, and what's your experience, and could you please mention your advices and opinions how Turkey can do this in Turkey?
Sure. Canada is a very large country, very rich in resources, and resources has always played a significant part, I think, in the Canadian economy and the Canadian psyche. People have always been familiar with it, so that has been a function of the geological riches that Canada has, the mineral potential. From that, I think there was a lot of government policy directed to expand in the economy and grow in the country at the same time, realizing that government had to play a significant role in the development of the mining industry, that it was too much for individual companies to do by themselves. And that really created and facilitated the availability of finance and the growth of the Canadian stock markets to be, I think today, the leading stock market for mining finance in the world, with a third of global financing being raised in Canada related to the mining industry.
What was the value in dollars? How big it is in?
The latest data, I think there's about 24 billion US raised globally in mining globally, and a third of that, so eight and a half billion, is raised on the Canadian Stock Exchange.
So when it started, so the main active role is a governmental role, right? Could you please comment in the first years why it is started, and who was the leader to form National Instrument 43101 reports and the how it is formed?
43101 is a fairly recent instrument as far as the Canadian economy is concerned, I think from the late 1990s. It really came about following a significant scandal we had in Canada, the Bre-X scandal, which was a small mining company that was publicly putting out lots of press releases about the reserves and resources that they had, with really no support behind it. And it turned out to be one of the largest frauds perpetrated on the Canadian stock market and on Canadian investors in all of history. So in response to that, the Canadian securities regulators and the government, there was a task force put together. It was the security regulators, the government, the mining companies themselves really needed to respond to that to restore credibility in the Canadian mining industry, and came up with National Instrument 43101, which establishes the standards by which Canadian mining companies must disclose their reserves and resources, and very similar to the international codes.
So to underline that, at the first place, we had the securities from the government, we have the mining sector representative, and we have the finance people to start with. So have you had difficulties to make this happen? I mean, how to work it actually? Okay, we had the Bre-X scandal, and then we had it's formed now, but how it made an active platform or active, how it became an active accepted by the industry?
I think the industry realized that something needed to be done in order to establish that credibility, in order to keep attracting investing, whether that's investing from private equity, from banks, from retail investors in terms of the equity markets. The industry realized that they needed to do something to restore that confidence. And the industry realized it needed that financing in order to maintain and be able to grow. So there was that realization up front, I think, which meant the industry generally embraced it. And that's what has made it very acceptable.
So what would be your suggestions and your support as KPMG to Turkey? How we, as you know, we have developed our own system in 2016, and that has been accepted. Now it's a member of CRIRSCO, World Reserve Committee, which Canada and Australia and Russia and other 10 countries, including Turkey, is a member. So what would be your support that how we can make this happen in Turkey as well?
I think if I look at the Canadian example, in order for these codes to really become successful, you really need to bring all of the stakeholders in the industry together. That is the government, that is the mining companies, that is the finances. Is that the finances, it could be the equity markets, it could be the banks, it could be all of the above. And really have them understand why the UMREK code has been developed, the advantages it brings, how it brings that credibility, how it enables transactions and financings to happen on a more timely basis. It really acts as a catalyst to really increase that understanding so that the mining companies realize it's not a cost to them, it's really going to be a benefit. The government realizes it will increase investment in the Turkish mining industry, and the banks and the equity markets, they understand what's behind it and makes them feel more comfortable investing in the mining industry.
Okay, thank you very much. And we had Mr. Lee from KPMG Canada, and we discussed about his experience in Canada, his suggestions and opinions and advices how to form this system in Turkey. And thank you very much for coming all the way from Canada to Turkey. It's nice to have you here.